All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming for our panel. I'm Chris Loader. I'll start with panel introductions. After we ask everyone to go to slido.com and punch in this number 8419649. That is our number if you'd like to add some questions for us to answer. We have a test question that says test question, so that'll be a tough one to answer.
It's working.
It's working. It will be a tough one to answer, though.
Yes, software is working.
But before we get going on other questions, Leandro, if you wouldn't mind closing that door back there. We're in a high traffic area here today.
No, we can have people come in.
Oh, that's true.
People are coming in.
People are coming in.
We'll give it 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, we can do that. We can give a couple of minutes. How's everybody's conference so far? Excellent.
Backseat paneling, Chris's panel.
Yes, please do. I am not with it today.
Just let's do our intros.
Okay, so we're gonna do our intros. I'm Chris Loader. I'm actually I don't know what I am right now. I'm in between jobs. I guess I will be an associate director of quality assurance someday. Is the microphones on? These microphones are on for our live folks at home, so we will talk a little louder. Like I said, I'm Chris Loader. I've been doing QA and test automation now for, oh my God, almost 3 decades. Longer than Sarah's been alive. That scares me. But that's me. Miss Sarah.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Watkins. We won't talk about how long I've been alive. I have a history in test automation, and DevOps, but test automation, moved to building out the tests myself, then to building the frameworks, the test automation frameworks that they run on. So now I'm senior software engineer and test at my company Q2. And I am also a maintainer for an open source project called Boa Constrictor. It's for the screenplay pattern. If you like better test automation patterns, check it out.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. I am Melissa. I've been in the industry for a while. I am the head of platform engineering at a startup called Imparticle. So I have software engineering and test and, oh my gosh, DevOps all rolling up under me. And my passion is building united frameworks and solutions that cross the boundaries to solve whatever the problem is that we actually need to solve for our customers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Knight. I am the Automation Panda. For about a decade or so, I was a rank and file software engineer and test, building solutions to testing problems, focused primarily on automation. Then I took a detour to developer relations for Applitools. You can go check them out in the vendor hall. They did visual testing. At that time, I was also director of a cool platform called Test Automation University. Anybody take any courses? Free online video courses about everything testing and automation related. Currently, I am the senior director of product management at a testing vendor named Cycle Labs based in Raleigh, North Carolina. We build testing for supply chain and warehouse management platforms, Blue Yonder, Manhattan, Kerber, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. I know you did not have much choice in the matter. I did not give you much choice, but that's great.
We do it for you anyway, Chris.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm trying to think how many times you and I have spoke together now.
A lot.
Yeah.
Remember the time we wore chef hats and
Yes,
we baked bread?
We baked bread for everybody. That was funny. All right. So one more time, if you have any questions for this panel, please go to slido.com, number 8419649. We would love your questions, please. But I will start with one. With the rise of AI, some people feel that it will replace testing and automation. What is your take on this, Andy?
No.
Were you in the keynote?
I was not, so you'll have to fill me in later.
So AI is not going to replace anything. It's just going to make things way, way, way better. Already we're seeing it, like I mentioned, you can see what's happening from the keynote or from what the vendors are doing. AI is a force multiplier for us as humans. And it's exciting to see all these awesome things come out like, hey, I can ask ChatGPT, help me build a test suite. Oh, that's really awesome. Hey, I can have a crawler go through your app and smartly identify behaviors in there. That's really cool. It can help me catch things that I may have missed. So using these AI-based tools and technologies as part of our work in whatever we're doing, being a developer, being a tester, I don't know, being a dance studio instructor, like it will help you do your job better.
So first my answer is gonna be a little long, so bear with me. So first I'm gonna tell you a story of yesterday. I was working on a little project. I have some code written. I needed to get it deployed. So I was writing some Docker files and a Docker Compose file to get it deployed out. And I spent about an hour, I know how to do these things. I taught a tutorial on these things, but it's coding, right? Sometimes it's buggy. So I spent about an hour working on it. And I was sitting next to Jason Arbon, who said, why don't you try this new AI assisted IDE? He says, I bet you'll solve your problem in 10 minutes or less. And I said, no, when I'm done, right, I'll go play with your toy when I'm done doing this problem. So I spent another hour debugging my stupid Docker Compose file. And then I finally got annoyed and I'm like, fine, I'll download the stupid thing that he said and I'll install it. And it just picked up all my code. And within 5 minutes, I had pasted in the message I was getting and it said, the problem is your context is off by one directory in your Docker file. And I said, shit. Because I spent 2 hours on my own and then Mr. Arbon said, do it with AI. And then I solved it in 5 minutes. So the reason I'm telling you this story is because, Andy's right. At the micro level, it's going to help you do your job a lot faster. But I think it's also important to zoom out to the macro level and think about what that means when one person is doing the work that used to take 5. Like, think that all the way through at the macro level about what staffing is going to look like and the skill sets you're going to need 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we don't need as many people to accomplish the same task. I think there's a similar thing that happened, right, to the automation, like when they started building cars with the automation line. I think a similar thing is going to happen where you need maybe a little less artisan skill. You don't need none, right? Of course, you still need some. But to build a car, you need fewer artisans and more machinists. So that's my really long answer about what I think AI is going to do to automation and software development in general.
I would agree. And my flavor to add to that is think about, okay, so AI will help us with the jobs we're doing. But how often in our own jobs do we have to do something that is not in our job description? Or your job description has evolved since you started? Do you know how to do those things? In test automation, I used to just write the test automation. But now I have to learn like the tooling, the DevOps side, the pipelines, CI/CD. I have management over that, and teaching teams how to do it. How do I teach a team that's halfway across the world? How do I train them? When you have like a certain 48-hour turnaround, if there's questions. I don't know, maybe I can get a baseline from AI. And I've been using it to kind of help, like Melissa said, 2 hours, 5 minutes. It gets that jump start to learn those skills that you need, to learn those skills that evolve into your position that you don't expect it. But it's a co-pilot, okay? I don't trust it completely. It needs that refinement from the human knowledge. So in my experience, it's been when I adopt AI, it helps me go faster. Force multiplier, like Andy said. And we could take it like, oh my gosh, it's scary, I don't understand it. Don't let that be the thing to stop you from using it. Be curious. Be the person who is the one that replaces the 5. Grow your skill set to learn how to be that person. Make sure you can stick around in 5 to 10 years. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace the change.
Yeah, if you were to ask me that question last year, actually even a few months ago, I said, AI, who cares? It's not going to make any difference.
It's a fad.
It's a fad. It'll come and go like everything else. It was until, and I hate to admit this in front of Melissa because we battled about Docker containers for years, but I actually found myself working on a Docker container and trying to get it to run in Jenkins.
Welcome to the dark side.
And myself and Shen were working on it and plugging away and getting weird error messages. And he said, hold on 1 second. Let me open ChatGPT. He literally put our error message in it and solved what had been taking us 3 hours to do in minutes. So I don't think it's going to replace what we do. I think it's going to change what we do. I think it is another tool in our toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we do as testers, that guy's been here for 3 days.
You.
That's okay. I've been here. But I think it's just going to change how we do things, how fast we do things. But someone still has to keep their finger on the pulse of the AI because it's not going to know everything. Cool. All right. Oh, we got a few questions now.
Yeah, see?
Feel free to vote up questions you would rather see, because if we get a bunch, then I may have to take them out. Traditional test automation versus AI-based. How do they differ? Would you like me to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So the AI-based testing tools and frameworks, like as a set, are still pretty immature, right? Like Jason's thing that he showed this morning at the keynote, it is real AI. It is also required him to write a lot of Python. Which I'm not saying I'm not denigrating it, but it's not something you can just go and replicate in a night. So just like with any other relatively fresh tech, the tooling is immature. Certainly, I'm sure somebody in the vendor hall has made great strides since last year, is doing something GPT-based or Gemini-based that they weren't last year. So the tooling will catch up quickly. But as of today, this moment right now, I can't say, go and hook yourself up to company product X or open source framework Y, and it's very easy, right? If you're going to use an AI-based framework, you're going to have to go like at the most basic, make API calls through Azure into OpenAI into one of the GPTs, and they're so. Doesn't mean they're bad, but every month they're better, but they're not quite plug and play ready to go for solving your testing. For writing manual test cases, right? For figuring out how, tell me about this page, for finding errors in your thinking or thinking of things you haven't thought of, yes. But for reliable, repeatable test automation that's going to answer question of, is this code safe to ship? Right? That's ultimately we're trying to answer with our test automation. Is this code safe to ship? There's not quite a mature product out there that I can recommend you to. Maybe you can build one on your own. But remember that no matter what your test framework is doing, whether it's AI-based or not, what you're trying to answer is the question, can I ship this?
I think another aspect that I have seen that I think we shall consider is the cost of these tools. Much of your coded tools are, by and large, open source test frameworks and libraries, Selenium, Cypress, Playwright. Of course, the cost is on you and your team to learn them, build with them, and run them on your infrastructure. But the actual tools themselves are free and open source. Much of the AI-based tooling, you have a cost. And I'm not talking about go to ChatGPT, get so many free sessions. I mean ones that are specifically built for testing and automation purposes, e.g. everyone in that vendor hall, right? They're all trying to sell you something. They're trying to separate money from you to give you their AI-based tool. And so I think there's going to be a trend seeing how AI-based tooling goes in any space, including the testing space. It's going to become a pay to win, right? Because we can't train these models for free. We can't run these things for free. People don't build fancy tools for free. So when it comes to testing and automation, teams are going to have to decide, are we willing to pay for these kinds of tools up front in terms of license or service and hope that it's going to give us much more return on investment than picking up, say, these free open source tools and building our own projects?
That actually kind of segues into my next question.
Ooh.
Do you have any recommendations for AI tools that is more specific to automation? Recommendation, me? Go next door.
Same.
I try not to recommend one tool over another myself, personally, because everybody is different. Anybody who's in my tutorial would know that's one of the things I say, is you need to figure out what works for you and the problem you are trying to solve. And there will be countless people next door who will try and solve it for you. There's a lot of open source as well out there. I think it boils down to, for starters, do you need AI to solve your problem? That's the first question you need to ask, because why add an extra layer of complexity if you don't need it? That's me. Like I said, I'm not a big recommender of tools. I'm a big recommender of finding the tool you need. Anyone else have anything to chime in on that one?
I think so just like Playwright spun out of internal testing efforts at Microsoft, I think it's only a matter of time until one of the FANGs spins out, this is our favorite testing tool, and now it's open source and it's in the community. I don't think there's one now, but I think we're measuring in months to years, not years to decades. until one of those spins out, just like Playwright did and just like Selenium did, remember, a billion years ago. So I think it's coming. I think we're a little bit in the infant stage. And if you're at a FANG and you want to go build one, like I think you'll have a lot of traction. But I think we're still a little bit waiting for somebody to take that hop to provide the same open source level support that we're used to for all our other testing.
We need the next tidal wave.
Yeah, I think it's coming.
Yes.
Can I redirect that one question about tool recommendation?
Yes.
So
please.
rather than giving actual names of vendors out there or tools to recommend, I would recommend that anybody who is looking for that, make sure you know the problem you're trying to solve. You go talk to any of those vendors out there, they will tell you they solve
All the
world
problems.
hunger, they can bring
Every
world peace,
problem.
they will solve every single problem. They have a portfolio of things that will do everything automatically for you. You just have to sit there like a Disney ride, get your strap in, make sure it's tight.
It's an AI world.
Yes. So, but many times, like Chris was saying, different people, different teams, there are different problems. Maybe you already have really good test case management and you're struggling with just getting manual test cases to be scripted so you can save time that way. Maybe your problem is test case management. So make sure you know what you're looking for in terms of what you're trying to solve, and then go find tools that match that. And make sure that you find tools that match that well, and don't just have that as like a little side piece of what they do.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the big question I ask when I first come to a place is, where does it hurt the most? Right? Finding that and then solving that problem, and whether or not that requires AI, that's what you get to figure out in your pilot project. Sorry, Sarah, I cut you off.
It's okay. I mean, that was kind of what I was going to say, right? Know the problem you're trying to solve. Sometimes you have a lot of problems. So then Chris gave us, where does it hurt the most, right? Make sure you prioritize your problems. Talk to the vendors, vet them, and like Priyanka told us today, right? Look at the history. Don't just take their shining stars and their resume, but do your research. If you're trying to solve something, don't just take the first thing that looks good. Make sure you do your research on it, because you don't want to be stuck in a multi-year contract with something that the people who are supposed to use it hate.
Yes. If you go there, take more than one business card. Right? In my tutorial on Monday morning, we talked about doing proof of concept, and you take 2 or 3 and you do the same tests in those 3 tools to make sure it does what you need it to do. We good?
We're good.
Next, what should an AI curious automation engineer look into first to start the AI journey?
Checky.ai, as we saw this morning.
Yes. Who was not in the keynote besides me? I was busy.
Shame.
I know, but the test lab doesn't set up itself. For me, an AI curious automationeer, again, I come back to my original question: do you need it in the first place?
I
Yeah.
would start I would go to Bing, and I would use, and I don't say this because I shipped Bing, but I would go to Bing because it's a free, easy way to get access to GPT. And I would go to Copilot, and I would just start playing around with like understanding prompt engineering. Hey, I'm testing this website. GPT-4 is not that old, right? I think its age length is 4 months now. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, please. But it's pretty recent. So, hey, I would say, pretend you're a tester and you're working on this site X, and you've been assigned task Y. How would you start? Or make 10 test cases, but like just start playing with prompt engineering. And it's free, because all your Gen AI, like it's all prompt engineering. So getting a really good understanding of how to make it do what you want is probably where I would start first. And also it's free.
Yeah, just to build off of that, right? Find the free things you can use, but also network, talk to others, and see how they're using it. I've gotten ideas from my coworkers who are like, oh, hey, I tried this thing, and that sparked something in me that like, oh, now I want to go try that. So don't just focus on what's the problem I need to solve, but just learn how to play with AI and just get comfortable with it, right? Part for me is like, I don't know how to use this. I don't know where to start. So I like Melissa saying, just start somewhere and get ideas from others.
And also, I would say there is a difference between being someone who is consuming and using AI technologies to make their job better, and someone who is building the AI tools and technologies, right? That is very much a distinction. I'm guessing most people in the testing space and most people probably attending this conference are in the former category of, I just want the goodies to help me do my job better, right? So it can be helpful to learn at a basic level, how LLMs work. What is a RAG? How is that different from other kinds of AI we've seen before, like neural networks and stuff? But I dare say most people who can use AI technology to get value out of it don't need to build their own LLM from scratch, right? You don't need to build your own neural network. You might get away with not knowing what a RAG is. So keep that in mind. If you feel overwhelmed by the amount of technology and the complexity of it all, it's okay.
And whatever you do, be polite. AI will take over. You want them to know that you were nice when the overlords take over.
Oh, I shouldn't have sworn at Alexa that way.
No.
Yeah. Prompt engineering
Oh.
tip. Every query start with please.
Yeah.
And then the response, thank you.
I always thank Alexa.
Tell her she's stupid.
That's right. On this note, how do you stay updated with latest industry developments? Do you use podcasts, blogs, or follow specific individuals?
I go to conferences.
Me too.
Too.
Hey, Star West.
Star West, Star East.
Star East. There's a lot of conferences out there.
I used to use Twitter. It's now X. It's not as good as it used to be.
No, it is not. Yeah, for the most part, I try and stay on top of things. I don't have any specific blogs I follow. Usually what one of my friends highlight, I'll typically go read. I don't know if you guys have anything in particular that you follow.
Meetups and dinners have started back up again post-COVID. It
yes.
smells like the VC money is fresh for spending again. So that was pre-COVID my favorite way. Post-COVID, it's still kind of my favorite way is to go talk to some people in person, maybe have drinks or a dinner with it, and just figure out, ask them, what are you doing? What's up? What kind of problems are you solving? I prefer doing it synchronously that way. I don't know. I feel like I get a better ROI on my time. Like I get the meatiest, coolest ideas that way.
Can I build on what you're saying there? Sometimes what happens post-event is more important than what happens during the main event.
Don't let Allison hear you say that. You said it on camera, man.
Well, what I mean to say is like today, you're going to be meeting a whole bunch of people. You're going to be sitting in a whole bunch of sessions. You're going to be talking to a whole bunch of vendors. There's a lot of information in a structured way being presented to you. And there's always this prodding of keep moving to the next thing. After, Lightning Keynote and Raffle today, we're all just going to be hanging around, talking and drinking and eating and being together. And there's a lot of good stuff that can come out of using that time intentionally that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yes.
We've even solved a few problems at the test lab.
Yeah, we've solved, yeah.
We all talk quite familiar. We didn't know each other how many years ago?
I was going to say so just to build off of that,
Yeah.
3 years ago was my first Star East. I came as a participant. The next year I was back, in Star West, I was teaching a tutorial with Andy. Why? Because of that after event, I met people,
Yep.
right? I talked to them.
Ask
And
questions.
And some people told me I have something valuable to share. And now I'm here coming back again and again, and I'm getting the benefit, not just being able to share what I know, but learning from all of you, learning from the people I have these conversations with outside of the sessions. So
I'm the head of platform engineering. I run a pretty big group that includes tests, and I've still had some of the most valuable career experiences and career steps and career choices happen because of the stuff that happens after the conference.
Yep, absolutely. Aside from anything related to AI, I know, right? Let's get off that buzzword, eh? What is an automation tool or tech that you've discovered and that you're currently excited about?
Playwright.
Oh, please stop with the Playwright. It'll never kill Selenium.
listen, I attended his tutorial
AI is a
yesterday.
Oh.
Wait, hold on. I attended his tutorial yesterday. And 2 years ago, Andy was like, Playwright's this hot new thing. We'll see how it goes. He's an ambassador of it. And I was like, okay, cool, Andy. It's cool. I want to try it. When I sat in his tutorial yesterday, we were an hour and a half in and hadn't really touched code yet. Like didn't write our own tests. I was like, Playwright can do all of this. Where was this 2 years ago? And I'm like, I got super excited for it. I love what it's gonna do. I'm trying to figure out now how can I start integrating this in. So I'm excited.
I'm ashamed to admit that I just only recently discovered Docker. Yes, Melissa. I'm actually quite excited about playing around with that now.
You can put Playwright in your Docker container.
I will never do that. So
What? That's how your tests are gonna. Ugh.
I
Still
mean,
got a lot
GitHub
to
Actions
learn.
do that for you anyway. So
anything else that anybody's discovered?
My favorite tool is you putting observability into my test frameworks. Because a big problem with testing is how to inspect your outputs, right? How to validate that something happened, especially when your services don't always like return something, right? Could be they kick off an async process, could be this thing you're testing calls something downstream. And so a really cool hack when you don't have an obvious inspection point is to go say, well, can I look at my observability and see what happened? Can I hook into, I use a tool called OpenTelemetry. Can I put a sync in OpenTelemetry to validate that I got this log line? I don't have to tail the logs. I can literally get the sync pushed to me. This log line happened. This metric incremented. This trace point was hit. And so suddenly systems that were otherwise opaque and had to be kind of black boxed and were really hard to test can have validation checkpoints in a reliable, repeatable way.
Very nice.
OTel,
All right.
wave of the future.
Moving on. Back to AI for a second.
again,
Do you remember when automation was the buzzword?
I know, right?
No,
This isn't like an automation face-off panel anymore. This is let's talk about AI panel.
This is like a
There is an AI panel later. Tariq is running an AI panel
but
later.
this one is so much better.
Yeah, his panel is going to be nowhere near as good as ours.
Are we ignoring the quality of AI at this point to embrace progress? Is this the new fall forward?
I don't use AI unless it solves my problem. So
And I have faith someone's testing it before I touch it. I know the AI that I was working on at my previous company. I mean,
Dude,
tested the heck out of it.
I have no faith that anybody tests anything unless I see it. That's a little cynical, but
Oh, okay.
I
Sorry,
would
sorry
say-
we didn't have a better answer on that one, but
I
I'm
mean, I
not
would
really
say
sure.
it doesn't matter as long as you understand what your problem is and what a solution looks like. And if it is solving your problem in a way you can validate this looks like the solution, cool. And if it isn't, then throw it away.
yeah, because we still got to be problem solvers ultimately, right? I mean, AI is just another tool in the box. If it helps you solve that problem better, great. If there are older solutions that actually work better than AI, okay, that's okay too. You don't need to AI all the things.
Right. It's use your judgment, right? Don't just blindly accept what it gives you. If it's solving your problem, great. If it's not, also fine. There are other things.
Google. I still use Google. Yes, I still use Google.
Me too.
Okay, this one. Oh, I can't wait for Melissa's answer to this one.
Boy.
In our org, dev writes end-to-end automated tests, but neglect maintenance when the product changes, leading to broken tests. Do you have ideas how to keep tests working?
Don't let them merge unless the test pass.
I knew that was coming.
I know it sounds really flippant, but honestly, pin
is.
their ability to merge PRs against a green pass. And then they have to fix it, and then you don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're having that problem where there's teams writing all these automated tests, but they're not really being a blocker for anything or a gate of quality. And we're like, well, they don't care to fix their tests. They're just pumping out numbers and getting praise because they've increased test quality. And the devs aren't getting that fast feedback. So there's no accountability there. Nothing stopping them or forcing them to maintain. So make them a blocker.
Yeah, make it gating.
Yeah. And by gating, I mean, I don't mean you say you can't. I mean, literally your PR merge system has a button that doesn't let them do
Yeah.
it because it's an automated gate. So they can argue with the machine. I don't know. Have fun.
Can I be devil's advocate and ask a question on top of that?
Yeah.
Please.
What if the tests just take too long to finish executing?
Delete them. They're useless.
They should not be part of your smoke or build process. They should be part of a separate regression run that's done later.
Yeah, I mean, look, you either care about the results of your tests or you don't.
Yep.
And you have at best two places to care, right? Pre-merge, when you're like, no, for real, we cannot ship garbage to production. And immediately post-merge, we're like, oh, it's about to be in a customer's hands. Are we sure? Those are your really only two places to care about test failures. So if you don't care enough in either of those two places, then you don't care. And why are you testing it? Right? Because by the time it's been in production for a week, it's way too late to catch a problem. It's already out there. It's gone, right? It's already affected everybody. Your customers are already mad. So either you care or you don't, and you have at best 2 points to care.
I would also add on that if you do care about the tests and they're taking too long, do things to try to speed them up.
Tests are code. They can be made fast, just
That's
like
right.
code can.
Like
So
Playwright.
You get more coverage in less time.
Absolutely. And if your tests are truly end to end, you might want to look at breaking them into little pieces.
I hear there's some tutorials that can help you do that, Chris.
Yeah, mine just finished on that one.
Star East. They're in Star East.
They'll be in Star East. Come see me in Star East. All right. Thank you for that one. That was a good question. I already know the answer to this one, but let's go with it anyway. If you had 10 hours a week to devote to an open source automation project, where would you direct your time? What is the most promising up-end OS tech? Where would you spend your time? If you were going to help one,
I'm sitting here like, man, if I had 10 hours, I'd be working on my cars. I don't know. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to yield to the others first.
Open telemetry. I love it.
Good one.
I was gonna say boa constrictor, but now I gotta try out Playwright. But really be a boa constrictor.
I'm selfish and I won't help anybody. So
2 or 3 years ago, I would have said boa constrictor because I was very active in that project with Sarah. I mean, I think everyone's waiting for me to say Playwright, but then I'm going to say, but Microsoft has a team for that already. So
yeah, and I'm still knee deep in the Selenium camp myself.
Is Wreck and Roll open source?
yeah. Okay, so that's a good point. Like, it's challenging to go engage some sort of open source project or any project when you aren't actually deep in it. Like, I used to be deep into SpecFlow and boa constrictor, but my job has since changed. So it's like, it's great. I still think it's awesome, but like, I'm not personally as invested in it anymore. So I don't feel like today would I go back and spend 10 hours a week on that. I don't know if I would. And right now, I don't know if there's an open source project based on what I've been working on that I would do it. I'm kind of right now very invested in building a proprietary project that's got all of my time consumed. So,
Yeah,
tough answer.
I'm kind of with you. I have many other things. I wish I had 10 hours.
Yeah, I wish I had that time.
All right. Okay. Interesting question. If any experience with government or government contractors, do you have suggestions on how to approach generative AI/automation with the restrictions of networks and tools, etc.? I personally do not have any government experience.
My government experience is really, really old and predates AI, but I'm going to sort of very broadly generalize this. Please don't send the feds after me if he violates. I would look at what you have available in your government cloud, right? So if Azure isn't offering OpenAI in the government cloud, because I know it's in the regular cloud, then you can't use it because Microsoft is highly incentivized to do it. And if they haven't figured it out, I wouldn't put my foot in that mess. But if your government cloud, right, does offer it, then that's your starting point, right? Because at least they've done something. They're pretty careful. So I would start with, okay, what is my government cloud offering? Do I have a government cloud? Like, if you don't use one, just go poke at Azure's just to kind of see what they're doing. And that's where I would begin.
That's all we got, eh? Sorry, none of us have worked with the government.
Not lately.
The only government experience I had was way early on in one of my talks many moons ago. And I made an offhanded comment about, if you can't solve the problem, cheat. Like, find another way around it. Like, if you can't go over the wall, go under it, go around it, that sort of thing. And one gentleman looked at me and said, I work for the Federal Reserve. We can't do that.
Yeah, that wouldn't have flown in the black lab I was in either.
No. Sorry, I misplaced. I was going out to just double check the time here. All right. Okay. Sorry. Someone liked one and moved the one I was reading. And you can't do that to me. Everyone keeps mentioning Playwright. Has anyone used Cypress framework? And what are your thoughts on it compared to other frameworks?
I like
Oh.
Cypress. Cypress is
Oh.
great. I use Cypress.
Really?
They just want you to talk, Andy.
Oh my gosh, I know.
5 minutes or less. Go.
Oh my gosh.
2 minutes or less.
Cypress and Playwright are both full-fledged modern test automation frameworks for the web. The advantage they have over Selenium is that they are full frameworks. They have advanced features like automatic weighting, the full test framework with it, so you can write out your tests. Beautiful, trace, and like they capture the DOM snapshots automatically, almost like this little movie that plays. Reasons I like Playwright better than Cypress. First of all, Playwright is a whole lot faster in terms of its execution time. Historically, Cypress has been very, very slow, slower even than Selenium. Yes, actually. If you were to benchmark them, Cypress always comes in last place. Like that, yes. Not to say Selenium is like fast by any means, but all these projects have made gains over time, but still I think Cypress is pretty
I've
light.
never seen a 4-hour Cypress run
Well, actually,
for a single test case.
okay, maybe there's
If you've
something
got a
wrong
4-hour
inside
test
the
case,
test case.
you have
That's
bigger
a different
problems.
problem. That's not a framework problem. But execution time, assuming that you're doing the same steps all throughout and you've tuned it well, execution time does matter when you have very large test suites, right? You got 10 tests, who cares? You got 100 tests, okay, we're feeling pain. You got 1,000 tests, we now have a problem.
I have 4,000.
And many of us have thousands, even tens of thousands of these larger scale test cases. And so you're like, how do I orchestrate this? Oh, that's a problem. Oh, well, like we were saying before, I want to, how do I get more tests in less time, right? Another thing I really like about Playwright over Cypress is that Playwright offers support in multiple languages, right? Where like I'm very much in Python community. I love Python. I can use Playwright in Python. I can't use Cypress in Python. Cypress is locked inside of the browser for how they built that technology. Cypress is almost arguably less of a web testing framework and more of a web app that tests web apps, right? And then with that, you also have other limitations. Like, did you know you can't open a second tab in Cypress? What? Yep. So there are those issues. I could go on and on and on. If you want to dig more into why I prefer Playwright over Cypress, we can talk at lunch, talk at reception afterwards. Probably some things I shouldn't say on camera.
And clear your afternoon.
Cypress is still good.
It is.
Cypress
It
is not
serves its
a
purpose.
Cypress is not a bad choice. I just for if I were to start new test automation projects, I would wholeheartedly choose Playwright over Cypress today.
You can write UI unit tests with Cypress.
You can do that with Playwright too.
True unit tests that just execute in their little block.
It's a little bit more work. I will say Cypress has better developer and tester experience, but Playwright does support component tests as well.
That's because Cypress was built by developers,
True.
not by QA. Yep. Sorry. Moving on to the next question while I have the last word.
It's his panel. He wins.
We all lose
can
to
debate that
Selenium in
later,
the
Andy. I love the acronym. Yet another AI question. What is the biggest AI miss that you've experienced?
Like,
I've just read it. What's the biggest AI miss that you've experienced?
Things I can't say on camera.
I'm only just not, I haven't needed it up to this point, so it really hasn't affected me.
I will say not the current generation of tools, but the previous generation, maybe 3-4 years old, where everybody's like, our tool is AI, our tool is AI, our tool is AI. It was not AI. They did maybe some statistical stuff because, AI is statistics on steroids, and then said it was AI. So there were a lot of claims in the previous generation of AI supported tools that were almost all of them a miss, actually. Like most of them couldn't do at scale and with the reliability I needed, what I needed them to do in my build and test pipelines. So a lot of the cool toys, but they were toys. not something I could take at production scale and production stage for, 100 commits a day.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say being lied to that it is AI.
Right.
Right. Being say, oh yeah, we do AI. You don't do it. That was the biggest swing and miss.
Anything, Sarah?
No.
All right. All right. That one's gone.
One left, right?
We're getting there.
Time for one left?
I got time for maybe a couple.
What time are we done anyway?
We're supposedly done at 12:30, but I think we've done at 12:20 in this one.
Yeah, 12:20. We got 10 minutes.
We got 10 minutes, 9 minutes, according to mine. All right. Can you recommend some LLM? Any open source ones? I will rely on my more experienced counterparts to that one.
So we recently did a hackathon, an AI-based hackathon, where we said, here's 10 different problems we're facing internally in the company around communication flow or data access or various things. And let's go head to head and see who can turn out, in 2 days, who can turn out the best solution. And I have to say that we all, got similarly up to speed. Like somebody used AWS Bedrock and somebody used Gemini and GCP and somebody used GPT-4o. And the winner, which needed the least prompt tuning and had the best conversational output as of July, was GPT-4o. It was the fastest it's been up against through, Azure. Microsoft does a real good job at wrapping access. The only way you can call it, by the way, is through Azure. You cannot call at scale GPT into any of the GPTs directly. Like those are toys for developers. If you're going to go through scale, you have to go through Azure. But they have done a nice set of toolings around stuff in your wiki page, stuff in your docs, and then build your chatbot or build whatever. So it was the nicest. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, this is 1,000 times better, but I did win the hackathon over Bedrock. So that was something. I would probably go in order: GPT-4o and then Gemini and then everybody else.
I can't give any sort of ranking, but I can say in my company, we've used GPT.
Okay, thank you. How would you approach those who are resistant to change or trying new tools? Leave me alone. I always encourage everybody to try new things on my team. Just because I've been doing it since before most people were born doesn't make it right. I learned that from my days. I used to work in a mine in northern Canada, and I used to work down in the lab, and I would go there and they'd be doing something, and I'm like, why are you doing it that way? Because we've done it that way for 30 years. That's not always the answer. So I do my best to encourage everyone to try new things. Just because I've been here the longest doesn't mean I'm right. Do not tell my wife I said that. But it's true, right?
It's on video.
No, Leandro will send that to her later. For me, I'm always encouraging those on my team to look for new ways, for new creative ways. If there's a new tool out there that will do something better than what we've got or what we've built, I'm all for it. I have no errors upon what we've built.
I think for me, I try to come from a place of understanding, right? Change is hard, and a lot of people do resist it and maybe aren't even curious. I know I was like that for a long time. So something that helped me is if someone's like, not just you need to make a change or try this thing, but help me set that up, help me get started. So if I want to show someone, say like my dad, how to do something in email, I'm not just going to say, oh, you go do this, do that. I'm going to sit down right there next to him. And I'm going to show him like this, explain it carefully, give him a chance to ask questions. I want to try to make it as easy and frictionless as possible to help someone and to help them see the value of the change I may be trying to encourage.
I'm going to wear my people leader hat for a minute and invert the question a little bit.
Sure.
So I need right now people who are going to be curious, intellectually curious, and resilient and creative, because everything is changing so fast, right? So I'll take a carrot and a stick approach, right? Hey, you want to work on this cool new stuff? I'll give you the opportunity. Of course, you want some training? No problem. We dole out the cool new projects pretty liberally, especially if you're interested. But the stick is, if you're not interested and you just want to do the same old thing you've been doing for 20 years, I don't need that and I can't promote that, right? I can't. Because your impact will be increasingly small compared to the peers who are learning the new stuff and moving 4 or 5 times faster. So it sort of shakes itself out. Like, yeah, you want to be promoted. You want to be on the cool project. You want the high profile stuff. But you're going to have to be a little bit more flexible and curious than you might have had to be a few years ago, because otherwise your impact will just be less, right? And certainly the way I do promotion is based on not just you're really good at this one thing you've done, but what was your impact? What was the impact of this really cool thing you did? Why does your deep coding knowledge or why does it matter in terms of what my company is trying to do? So if you're running into somebody who's reluctant to learn, reluctant to grow, reluctant to change, like if you're not their manager, there's, of course you can be nice to them and try to help them, but it's unfortunately a problem that will solve itself, possibly to that person's pain. Because now more than ever, there's not a lot of room for it.
All right, I got 3 minutes. So let's finish this out with one more question. Well, we might as well make it an AI one, right?
Why not?
Why not?
Well, it's the most popular one in the list here, so let's go with that. Most of the AI test is about using it on a UI. Are there any tools for back-end services?
GPT-4 writes better code than it does English words. I don't know if you know this.
Interesting.
So the first time I went, oh, this can code, is I pasted in a JSON blob and said, please write the C# class that corresponds to this. And it said, okay. And it wrote it flawlessly in 3 seconds. So it's a monstrous accelerator when you're at the API level, right? You start with a JSON set of docs and you're like, hey, write me an SDK for this. It's written, it's done. 3 seconds, 4 seconds. So I think maybe the reason you don't see people talking about it at the back end is on some parts it's just so fast and easy that everybody just assumes, yeah, you just know how to do this, right? It writes code, especially from pretty strict requirements that like JSON conversion is pretty, there's a right answer. There's only one right answer.
Yeah.
When you're able to give it stuff like that, it writes a lot of code really fast and it's really efficient.
And I mean, that makes sense because programming language is much simpler than human language.
It has a right answer. English doesn't have always a right answer, or Spanish, whatever language. Code has a right answer. Actually, you know, there was a viral thing where AI didn't know how many R's were in strawberry, right? And yeah, of course, because that's how it works, right? It's tokenizing. But you could tell the AI, write me a Python program that calculates how many R's are in a word and feed it strawberry, and it would be correct every time. Because you have to understand what it's doing, and it's a lot better at code because code is a definitive answer. Flawless. Write a Python program that counts the number of R's in a word, run it for me with the word strawberry, it will be correct.
Interesting. All right. Well, I will wrap us up here now with thanking my fellow panelists. As always, it is so much fun to sit up here with you, even if we don't always agree that I'm always right. But thank you all as well for joining us today. We always appreciate it. I hope you go and enjoy lunch. And you guys have any final words you'd like to share? Any little pieces of wisdom?
Come to the lightning keynotes.
Lightning keynotes are always fun. I really should figure out what I want to talk about.
Yeah. I have slides.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you for your questions.